Over 5 miles of traffic of race fans waiting to get into Tampa, Florida's Tampa Stadium for one of the quickest, fastest, biggest, and most prestigious USHRA Association Championship Motorsports events of the year. Ready to kick things off in 1989. I'm Bret Kepner, and along with Shelley Herman, we'll be covering this championship event now for the 3rd year in a row. And for you mud racing fans out there, I'm sure you remember 1 year ago here at Tampa Stadium at the Super Bowl of Motorsports when a magic barrier was broken in championship 100-foot-long mud racing. It was Tom Martin in the Mud Patrol from Chicago, Illinois, driving through the 100-foot-long pit with the first elapsed time ever under 2 seconds flat at 1.97 seconds. Martin went on to win the 1988 USHRA Association Super Modified World Championship. And this event has proven to be a turning point in most professional mud racing drivers' careers. We'll be covering the championship mud racing today, Shelley, and indeed we have the defending champion, John Runner, here with the Rapid Transit Jeep. We also have Al Stebbins with the infamous Black Magic Corvette. The best in the business are here.
Well, people are going to give Tom a real run for his money, and the people that have been waiting outside are in for a great show this evening.
We're back at the Tampa Stadium in Tampa, Florida, as we prepare for the qualifying round in one of the most prestigious monster truck championships on the USHRA Association National Event Trail. Tonight's event will be a side-by-side drag race competition, and the drivers will qualify for their positions in the final starting field. This will be the first qualifying round, and what a pair of machines we have on the starting line here tonight. One of the most popular pieces of equipment at this event each and every year from Avalon, Florida, is Tommy Bryant. And the machine you're looking at right now, the world's only 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback monster machine. Using an all-original production body, Tommy Bryant has combined this incredible Ford Mustang, a show-quality piece of equipment in itself, with monster truck engineering. And indeed, he will be up against this gentleman, Clint Dadgett, another Florida racer from Spring Hill, Florida, with his monster Ford called Thumper. Dadgett utilizing a Ford F-250 body style and a 460 cubic inch Ford wedge in this 14,000-pound piece of equipment. So an all-out battle between two Floridians on the starting line. And remember, this is for qualifying positions in the final starting field. Side-by-side drag racing style elimination action will be coming up once we get into the actual elimination segment of the Super Bowl of Motorsports monster truck program. And you can see the course layout. Indeed, it includes a total of 7 vehicles in the first half of the car crush segment. The vehicles are equipped with dirt ramps to help the machines get airborne over them. After that, they will try to clear a total of 9 more vehicles, with the finish line located the 3rd vehicle before the end of the 2nd set of cars. The green flag comes down, and it is the Mustang Pony Express in the air and ahead of the Thumper Ford. Now over the 2nd set of cars, a tight battle. The Pony Express machine lands off the cars, as does Dadgett in the Thumper. But the Pony Express Ford Mustang of Tommy Bryant takes the first win and will get a chance to set the qualifying pace. Tommy Bryant took a wild ride on that run, as we can see on this replay. The first set of cars gave him a tremendous amount of air, but bouncing around between the cars, Tommy was still trying to set up the Mustang for a clean hit and got sideways on the initial impact. Landing off to the left-hand side of the cars, he still goes through with an incredible 9.13 second elapsed time for the low qualifying spot, at least at this point. This should be one of the most popular battles of this qualifying round. First up, it's Kenny Kelling in the near lane and the legendary Bigfoot Ford of Bob Chandler from St. Louis, Missouri. This particular machine stood this crowd on its ear 1 year ago at this event in winning the Unlimited Monster Truck Battle. However, he'll be up against a newcomer to the Florida ranks of monster truck racing in the far lane, the 1935 Ford, believe it or not, of Kenny Fecox from Polk City, Florida. Considered by many as one of the wildest newcomers on this national event trail, utilizing a 515 cubic inch Ford wedge power plant. They leave the starting line, and it's Bigfoot getting the whole shot. Kenny Kelling and Bigfoot bouncing all over the place and getting a tremendous amount of advantage over the Outlaw 35, which just about goes over sideways. And Kenny Kelling in the legendary Bigfoot Ford wins his qualifying battle with ease. Kenny Kelling leaves the starting line beautifully, hits the first set of cars with the biggest airborne jump we've seen so far in qualifying, but a tremendously hard landing as the machine is still bouncing when he hits the second set of cars. But Kelling nearly clears the entire set, comes across the finish line with an incredible 8.49 second elapsed time, the #1 qualifying spot again for the defending champion here at the Super Bowl. On the replay, we can see the wild ride that Kenny Facox had in the Outlaw 35 Ford. The first jump, not bad at all. The machine landing pretty squarely on the first set of cars. It was the second set of cars that gave him the problems. Bouncing around and then hitting the second set sideways, that's where he broke the tie rod. On that landing, destroying the front end and giving the Florida resident no steering whatsoever. He coasts across the finish line with an elapsed time of 20.13 seconds. Well, Kenny Kelling in Bigfoot sets the pace with the quickest elapsed time of qualifying at 8.49 seconds. And indeed, that will lead the way at this point, putting Tommy Bryant's Pony Express #2 at 9.13 seconds and the Thumper Ford from Florida at 9.35 in the #3 position. The next pair of machines in this qualifying round include in the far lane D.O. Wilson's incredible Virginia Giant, one of the most popular Ford monster trucks ever built out of the state of Virginia, from Winchester, Virginia to be exact. Wilson, the 14-year veteran of USHRA Association pulling, whether it be in funny cars or modified four-wheel drive trucks, this incredible $125,000 Ford, the Virginia Giant, is so popular on the eastern seaboard. But he will be up against a brand new piece of equipment, getting ready to fire up in the near lane. Kevin Dabney out of Tampa, Florida, another veteran monster truck campaigner with the brand new Chi-Town Hustler. Airborne for both machines. Dabney sideways, but still with the advantage. The Chi-Town Hustler machine almost sideways, and that one was too close to call. Dabney and the new Chi-Town Hustler machine just about going over. The supercharged, fuel-injected, small-block Chevrolet-powered rear-engine machine had one of the wildest rides of this qualifying round, and the finish was just flat too close to call at this point. On the replay, you can see D.O. Wilson in the Virginia Giant Ford's first airborne launch over the first set of cars. The body shaking around as he definitely came down hard on the front end of the truck. When he brought it down on the ground, it was still bouncing. When he hit the second set of cars, he barely got it leveled out, but when he hit it, it was sideways in the air and came down almost falling off the cars. Wilson, on a wild ride, kept his foot in the throttle for one of the closest finishes we've seen and gets an elapsed time of 9.34 seconds. Meanwhile, Kevin Dabney still trying to figure out the damage, if any, to the brand new Chi-Town Hustler Nissan King Cab. Here you can see Dabney sideways after a rough landing, trying to keep the machine straight, and there you see a tremendous amount of fluid spewing out of the front. It looks like it was the steering linkage and the steering fluid pump that went away for Kevin Dabney's brand new Chi-Town Hustler. The semifinals when we continue championship monster truck racing from the Super Bowl of Motorsports in Tampa, Florida in just a moment. We're back at Tampa Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Bret, Kepner, and Shelley Herman ready to start things off at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports with the first official round of monster truck elimination competition. The #1 versus #4 qualifiers on the starting line. In the near lane, #1 qualifier Kenny Kelling in Bob Chandler's incredible Bigfoot, who led the field by more than 0.6 of a second over his opponent, D.O. Wilson, in the incredible Virginia Giant Ford with supercharged Ford power. And Shelley, they leave the starting line with a big all-shot advantage going to Kenny Kelling. D.O. Wilson trying to make up the difference, but he's not going to do it. And a wild ride for Kenny Kelling as Bigfoot almost goes over in the very last two cars, but D.O. Wilson still couldn't make up the difference, even with Kelling's unfortunate bounce. Well, both drivers seem to have their problems on this run. Kenny Kelling airborne almost over the entire first set of cars, but then he goes into the bouncing that has given him problems even in the qualifying rounds. He hits the second set of cars. He overshoots to the left just a little bit, comes down off the cars, but manages to keep it upright. The elapsed time, the quickest of the event, 7.43 seconds for Kenny Kelling and Bigfoot. On the starting line now, Tommy Bryant and the incredible Pony Express from Florida, the world's only Ford Mustang monster machine, and it looks like Bryant will get a bye run as the Outlaw 1935 Ford truck that we saw earlier run into front-end problems will not be able to make this round. Kenny Fecox from Park City, Florida, is unable to make the call, so it will be a single run and an automatic single run into the semis for Tommy Bryant's incredible Mustang. Once again, a little sideways coming off the first set of cars, and Bryant still manages to keep it on all machines. So that will advance him into the semifinal round without opposition. But it also means that in the next round, Tommy Bryant will be forced to take on Bigfoot. Tommy Bryant hits the first set of cars. As we see here on the replay, he still is having problems keeping that machine straight coming down off the first set of cars. But he never even thought about getting out of the throttle on this run. A great landing on the second set, and it's his quickest elapsed time. In fact, it ties Bigfoot's qualifying time, 8.49 seconds. The final battle in the first round of eliminations here at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports will pit this vehicle, the brand new Chi-Town Hustler. Nissan King Cab with supercharged small block Chevrolet power in the back against Florida's own Thumper. The beautiful Ford in the near lane was quite impressive in qualifying, making it in the number 5 spot, only a few tenths of a second behind the number 2 man, Clint Daggett, and his brother Earl, campaigning the big green Ford, and here is a piece of Florida monster equipment. The winner will go to the semifinal round. Remember, the quickest loser in this first round will also receive an automatic semifinal round berth. Staged and ready. The green flag drops, and a big hole shot for the Chi-Town Hustler. But Dabney in the Chi-Town machine gets a little swirly. Thumper even more sideways, covering the cars on 2 wheels. But Kevin Dabney will automatically go to the semifinal round. A great ride with the brand new Chi-Town Hustler. Shelley, it looks like they fixed whatever the steering problem was with the brand new Chi-Town machine, and obviously it's back and forth.
And we're glad to see it.
Meanwhile, Earl Daggett in the other lane had a tremendous ride with Thumper. His first run of the evening, under 9 seconds. Even though it was bouncing all over the place, a tremendous ride. He did his best to keep it or bring it back on the cars at the end. At 8.90 seconds, he'll go to the semifinal.
What a wild ride.
And this battle will determine which tank tread machine will take on the winner of the 4-wheel drive category yet to come. It will be the car killer of Butch Lowe from West Palm Beach. The Ford Bronco that you're looking at, based on a 1941 Army M4 tank chassis, taking on the machine that started it all, the tank revolution, the Virginia Beach Beast. The green flag comes down, and the whole shot goes to the Florida Ford, the car killer of Butch Lowe, with a full truck length advantage sideways over the last set of cars, but enough to take the win. And the Florida fans love every minute of it as the Florida Bronco of Butch Lowe will go on to take on the winner of the 4-wheel monster truck category here at the Super Bowl of Motorsports, Shelley.
It's an interesting contest when you get the monster trucks and the tanks together, because one doesn't get the height the other one has, but the other gets the speed. So we'll see if jumping or if the tread tires makes a difference.
Oh, indeed. We still have to determine the winner of the 4-wheel category, and with Kenny Kelly and Bigfoot looking so strong in that division, it will be a battle if it comes down to the car killer Bronco and, of course, the big blue Ford F-350 known as Bigfoot. On the slow motion replay, it looked like Butch Lowe had everything going for him until he got a little sideways coming down off the first set of cars. At that point, when he hit the second dirt ramp, the machine was sideways, but he used that stick steering wheel to keep straight, going through at 8.43 seconds. That'll be good enough to keep pace with any of the toughest of the monsters. In the other lane, the Virginia Beach Beast, however, had a slow start. When he hit the first set of cars, the machine seemed to be leaning quite heavily, but the second set looked pretty straight, Shelley.
Yeah, but he didn't get nearly the type of height that we've seen in some of these other tanks before.
Oh, the machine, even though as smooth as glass all the way across the finish line, goes through at 9.50 seconds. That was not nearly enough to knock Butch Lowe out of the field.
We'll be back with more excitement here in Tampa right after this.
This will be the first round of championship mud racing action, and in the near lane, one of the best-known mud racers in the business, taking on one of the hottest drivers in USHRA Association action. Al Stebbins from Orange City, Florida, in the near lane with the infamous Black Magic Corvette. 514 cubic inches of fuel-injected, methanol-burning, nitrous oxide-injected 1982 Chevy Corvette, one of the original killers on the USHRA Association National Event Trail. But in the other lane, 5-time USHRA Association National Event winner Dale Hickey from Clearwater, Florida, in the 1927 Ford T-Roadster called Alcoholic 2. The last time we saw Hickey in the winner's circle was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Indeed, the the fuel-injected, nitrous oxide-injected Chevrolet-powered machine of interesting displacement, only 377 cubic inches of small block Chevrolet, can give the Black Magic machine fits. Remember the track record here set by John Runner, 1.92 seconds. Tremendous race, and the Black Magic Corvette gets the first win. Sideways spin out for Hickey at the finish line, but the Black Magic Corvette of Stebbins lives up to its name. Originally one of the quickest and fastest mud racers ever conceived, it is still one of the all-time stormers in USHRA Association Championship mud racing. Dale Hickey's incredible street roaster launched a little bit sideways, but he did everything he could to keep it straight until the rear end started drifting at the finish line. Hickey gets sideways as he tries to steer away from the banner, but he hits the banner anyway. And at 2.26 seconds, it would have been an incredible run, but Shelley, hitting a banner is a disqualification. So in the other lane, Stebbins' incredible Black Magic Corvette launched like a rocket and was never headed at 2.13 seconds. Tremendous pass for a car that has been competitive for so long. Moving up the stage, Homer Cox in the near lane from Clearwater in the Jeep called Getting Off with small block Chevrolet power, taking on 50-year-old Jack King Sr. in the Excavator number 1. The green light goes on, the whole shot to Homer Cox, and Homer Cox manages to hold off Jack King Sr. with a whole shot. Tremendous battle, but in this instance, because of the whole shot by the machine in the near lane, the elapsed times may not have matched up. Indeed, Cox may have run much quicker in losing, and still may have advanced. We'll have to wait and see. Jack King leaves the starting line plenty strong as the 50-year-old in the Excavator number 1 drives it through a little bit sideways of the shutdown with a tremendous 2.57-second run. But over the other lane, this incredible piece of equipment, the Getting Off Jeep, was right behind him by only 0.09 of a second. At 2.66 seconds, the Getting Off machine was behind by just a few feet at the finish line. One of the most unusual machines you'll ever see here in the near lane. This is Tony Yanis. Of all things, a 1988 Monte Carlo. Mud, 557 cubic inch cast iron Chevrolet rat motor with nitrous oxide injection and a 2-speed power glide transmission taking on this machine. The Green Mamba 1986 Ford Ranger of Dave Henson from Castleberry, Florida. There you get a chance to see the fuel-injected methanol burning and nitrous oxide purging, as we just saw, Monte Carlo. However, Henson using a big block 427 Chevy motor in this Ford Ranger. The elapsed time to beat, 2.13 seconds by the Black Magic Corvette of Al Stebbins, still low ET. As they move up the stage. Waiting for the green flag, the lowrider Monte Carlo in the near lane against the high-flying four-wheel drive Chevy-powered Ranger. Bravo for the Ranger, and a tremendous run for Tony Yanis. That may be the quickest pass of this event. What a blast for the Tampa racer. The crowd goes berserk as the 557 cubic inch Chevrolet puts down one of the best runs of the night.
You can't blink at this place. You're going to miss all the excitement.
As we pointed out, the quickest and fastest mud racers in the world each and every year. Here at the Super Bowl of Motorsports, the USHRA Association National Event Racing does not get any quicker than this. I don't think anybody was ready for Tony Yanis' run in the right-hand lane. 2.27 seconds as the Grin and Barrett Ranger of Dave Henson ran into serious problems coasting on through at 5.95. But Shelley, that's only 0.14 of a second slower than the Black Magic machine. On the starting line, a piece of equipment that I think may be one of the most popular mud vehicles we have ever seen in the USHRA Association competition, and this is its first ever national event appearance. How about a 1955 Ford Thunderbird, the Dirty Bird number 2, with fuel-injected, methanol-burning, nitrous oxide-injected Ford Wedge power. A beautiful piece of equipment, but he is up against one of the toughest drivers in the business, Dick Wilson from Dade City, Florida, in a Jeep called the A-Team. This particular piece of equipment, a 500 cubic inch, big block, Rodeck, all aluminum Chevrolet, fuel injected with methanol, leading the starting line, and is the Jeep of Wilson all the way, and a tremendous ride. The 55 T-Bird, never ever a threat to the Dade City, Florida Jeep team.
Like you said, it's his first national event. Maybe he'll learn from this experience. We'll see him again sometime.
I'll tell you, regardless of his performance, I think when that machine pulled out, we got a bigger crowd response than of any of the vehicles so far. But Dick Wilson advanced very, very well here last year with the A-Team Jeep. And in that particular lane, the quickest elapsed time so far, 2.57 seconds by Jack King Sr. That run may have been good enough to give him the quickest elapsed time in that lane. Well, Dick Wilson leaves the starting line plenty hard. The front wheel's just skimming the surface as he goes through with a tremendous 2.28-second run. That'll give him the lead in that lane. But, Shelley, this thing is incredible.
It sure is. I wish you could say the same thing about skimming along so easily, but for a pretty new car to the field, at 2.80 is still a very respectable time.
Well, Shelley, on the far lane, that machine right there is the one everybody is waiting to see. The defending champion here at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports, and the man who to this day, 12 months later, owns the quickest elapsed time in the history of USHRA Association 100-foot-long mud racing. This is John Runner from Orlando, Florida, and here's his opposition. The More Sure Madness 1986 IROC Z28 Camaro, being driven by Kenny Heckle out of Christmas, Florida. But in the far lane, John Runner's rapid transit machine, the 572 cubic inch big block Chevrolet, last year in the final round ran the quickest ET we've ever seen in the U.S. Auto Association trail at 1.92 seconds. Tremendous driver. And will be looking to run quicker than the 2.28 second low elapsed time in that lane we just saw by the A-team. I'll tell you, Kenny Heckle's beautiful IROC Z28 Camaro with a 540 cubic inch big block, the topless roadster here in the near lane, can certainly give him fits. Another fuel-injected, nitrous oxide-injected piece of equipment. But there is the defending champion. The Bolaws Automotive sponsored fuel-injected 572 cubic inch Jeep funny car that could not be beat here 1 year ago. And a tremendous run again for John Barber, literally carrying the front wheels for 50 feet of this 100-foot-long pit, and obviously a little spin out by Kenny Heckle there.
Yeah, he got a little bit of madness there when he spun, but everything looks okay.
Well, obviously Heckle doing everything he could to outrun John Runner's aptly named Rapid Transit Jeep funny car. What a piece of equipment. The defending champion, always one of the toughest. Well, the defending champ John Runner got off to a fine start, but the machine never seemed to get the traction it needed. And at 2.38 seconds, it will not be enough for last year's winner to move into the lead. Meanwhile, Kenny Heckle in Danny Barber's topless Camaro drove through with an excellent pass. Machine going through at 2.52 seconds and the classic spin out at the finish line. The next pair of machines up will include Jack King Jr., the 24-year-old son of Jack King Sr., who we saw earlier. But right now, the machine you're looking at is Barefoot. Howard Turner from St. Petersburg, one of the oldest active mud racers in U.S. Auto Association competition at 52 years old. Another 350 cubic inch small block Chevrolet, of all things, in the beautiful yellow and flamed Barefoot Jeep funny car. But in the near lane, the 24-year-old second-generation driver from the King family from Punta Gorda, Florida, driving his 500 cubic inch Chevrolet powered Jeep funny car.
I'm looking at the different types of tires he has on the front versus the back. The front have a real interesting cut tire.
Remember,
they're much smaller than the ones in the back.
Remember, these machines must use Department of Transportation legal, street legal type tires. They can rearrange the tread to any particular design they'd like. And a lot of the drivers, since these machines have become so quick and so fast, have elected to use smaller tires with different tread patterns on the front, because if you watch, these machines very seldom keep the front tires in the mud for very long.
If done properly.
Right, the acceleration is so incredible on these machines. Think about it, covering 100 foot of mud in 2 seconds flat. The 52-year-old from St. Petersburg, Florida, watching the starter intently as the 24-year-old in the other lane moves up the stage. The quickest elapsed time so far still, the Black Magic Corvette of Al Stebbins. Kind of prophetic of the original terrors in this sport, leading the 1989 edition of the Super Bowl of Motorsports. Staged and ready, waiting for the green start. And it looks like a big hole shot, and maybe even a foul start for the youngster of the King family, Jack King Jr., kind of bogging off the starting line. I think he even realized that he may have left before the green light came on. In and out of the throttle. Obviously, Jack Jr. not real thrilled with that performance. But likewise, Howard Turner having his problems in the other lane in Barefoot. I think there's a little bit of psychological games going on the starting line there, Shelley.
Well, being here at the Tampa Bay Stadium, I think they would call that offsides if this were another sport.
Exactly. Well, the 52-year-old did hesitate on the line. There you see it, but then made it through, Shelley.
He was able to hang on to it, but at a disappointing 3.51 for his elapsed time.
All over the other lane, the younger member of the King family racing team with the Excavator 1 was on a heck of a pass. Skimming the front, although he didn't seem to have as much trouble through the top end of the track as his father did. 2.84 seconds, nonetheless, still will keep him out of the final.
Still to come, more monster trucks, more mud, more excitement, so don't go away.
We're back at Tampa, Florida's Tampa Stadium for the championship final round in the super modified unlimited mud racing division here at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports. A literally sold-out Tampa Stadium looks on as these two drivers prepare to battle for the overall championship. You're looking at the only supercharged machine in competition here tonight. Here's Bobby Hopping, Palm Bay, Florida racer with his 1927 Ford T-Roadster with the only supercharged power plant in competition. He calls the machine Hysteria. 468 cubic inches of fuel-injected Chevrolet with a supercharger on top. Taking on Keith Rowland's 1986 Chevy S10 pickup called Psycho. A 468 cubic inch fuel-injected topless S10 using nitrous oxide injection. And Shelley, I would think the driver with the only supercharged power plant here tonight would stand an advantage in this incredibly quick mud.
I would think so, too. I was just watching some of the track officials. It seems that they're still getting that mud wet.
Well, indeed, these machines are going so fast. And motor problems for the supercharged piece of equipment. It sounded like a transmission going away. And that victory goes to the Psycho Chevy S10 of Keith Rowland. A great, great ride for the fuel-injected machine. But like I said, based on the height of RPM by Bobby Hopping's supercharged T-Roadster, it sounded like the two-speed Power Glide transmission definitely went away in that one. You can see a lot of smoke coming out of the engine compartment. Let's look at the starting line launch as Hopping leaves the starting line nicely. A lot of smoke as the engine goes sky high, and at that point he shuts her down. Actually, the motor did the shutting down on its own. A lot of fluid spewing out of the front. He coasts across the finish line at 3.11 seconds on what could have been a much, much stronger run for the Hysteria Supercharged 23T. Now, in the other lane, Keith Rowland's Psycho leaves the line beautifully. Look at the rear tire distortion as this thing was definitely flying. One of the quickest passes ever for this guy, 2:43. Well, here's Carl Sparks from Merritt Island, Florida, and the machine he calls Thumper, the rabbit mascot on the front of the machine, utilizing a 468 cubic inch supercharged and fuel-injected Chevrolet motor. Another one of the only supercharged entries in competition here tonight. But he'll be up against, if I'm not mistaken, a driver we've seen before, Shelley.
Danny Barber. Danny was in the same lane. Let's see if he has a little bit of better luck this time in Stroll for Gold.
Fuel-injected Chevrolet-powered Jeep funny car. Beautiful piece of equipment. He'll have to go quicker than 2.28 seconds in that lane, while the supercharged machine of Carl Sparks will have to run quicker than 2.13. The starter checking to make sure each driver is ready as they stage up. The green light comes on. Barber drives away. No competition as he gets sideways in the shutdown area. The supercharged machine of Carl Sparks never a threat to Danny Barber's #2 entry in the far lane. There you see the blown entry, and now the Stroll for Gold winner in that particular battle. So Danny Barber puts down a good run with a massive hole shot. On the replay, the machine launched beautifully, no question about it. The Stroll for Gold machine was on a ride. It looks like the brakes were used a little too early on that 2.39-second run, actually getting airborne, digging into the dry dirt down past the finish line. In the meantime, Carl Sparks in Thumper also had a great run going. A little bit of tire spin off the starting line, though. Slowed this thing down to a 2.63-second run. But look at him on the brakes, about 6 feet from that disqualification banner. I don't think you could ask for a more outrageous piece of equipment in mud racing than this one. Take a look at the incredible Instigator of Tommy Walker Jr. from Orlando. A 429 cubic inch Ford Boss Wedge powered 86 Thunderbird, Shelley.
Oh, I've got my eye on Thunderbird. Those are my faves.
Well, I'll tell you, that particular piece of equipment will have its work cut out for it because here in the near lane is one of the most incredible mud racers in this part of the country. This is Josh Hammonds, the veteran chassis builder, the owner of this machine. His driver, Ben Lake, who is always a killer. From Eustis, Florida, the Jeep called Top Gun, utilizing, of all things, one 4-barrel carburetor on top of a 498 cubic inch big block Chevrolet power plant. Despite that one 4-barrel carburetor, this machine can run in the low 2-second zone with the best of them. Nobody under 2 seconds flat at this point, but if anybody's going to do it, the Top Gun Jeep can. Ben Lake in the near lane. Tommy Walker's incredible Instigator T-Bird in the far lane. A beautiful shot looking straight up the track. The starter waits for Ben Lake to clear out the 498 cubic inch big block Chevrolet. Now they're staged. Waiting for the green. The whole shot goes to the T-Bird, but Lake drives around him. And the Instigator locks up the brakes as he heads almost down to the retaining wall. But Ben Lake in the Top Gun Jeep may have put down the run that he needed to take over the #1 spot. Despite the Instigator leaving first, Ben Lake took Josh Hammond's single 4-barrel Jeep Top Gun around him on the top end. What a way to pick up a victory. You know, starting line reactions are so critical in this sport. Seldom does a driver have the power to come around from behind. But you can see Ben Lake and the Top Gun driving around Walker, 245 to a losing 249. The T-Bird being disqualified for breaking that top-end banner. Unbelievable race with the single four-barrel Jeep winning it from behind. Coming up, we've got more incredible super modified mud racing action from Tampa, Florida. Stay with us. We're back at Tampa, Florida's Tampa Stadium for the championship final round in the super modified unlimited mud racing division here at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports. Here's the Chevy Underglass Jeep funny car of Terry Marshank from Largo, Florida, utilizing again a Chevrolet small block power plant. We've got a lot of guys here tonight utilizing the small block underdog motor. He'll be up against this piece of equipment, the Shadow 1927 Ford Roadster, being driven by Gene Sparks from Cocoa, Florida. This machine, another 468 cubic inch big block Chevy, fuel injected and using nitrous oxide injection. So the Shadow with the big block power plant. The yellow Chevrolet Underglass Jeep funny car using a 378 cubic inch small block fuel injection and, of course, that extra oxygen from nitrous oxide injection.
These look like two of the lightest cars I've seen this evening.
As a matter of fact, neither one weighs more than 2,300 pounds. But as we pointed out on past U.S. Harvard Association national event telecasts, most of these drivers are opting now for machines as light as 2,000 pounds in unlimited mud racing here in the super modified division. The Shadow clears out the big block power plant and now moves into stage. But the whole shot by a bunch goes to the small block. Unfortunately, Terry Marshank had to get out of the throttle as it looked like he was almost going to go out of bounds. A tough break as Marshank had a great run running. He was forced to lift off the throttle at about the 80-foot marker when the machine started going sideways and heading for the left side boundary. Marshank gets an elapsed time of 2.70 seconds sideways, but in the other lane, Gene Sparks in the Shadow had the worst tire spin we've seen so far. Never got any kind of momentum, and poor Sparks is in there trying to figure out what in the world he's going to do to scheme off the exhaust headers as he finally comes across the finish line at 4.28 seconds. Here's Billy Boydston in the Jeep he calls True Grit, another machine utilizing big block Chevrolet motivation, this time with carburetors and nitrous oxide injection. And he'll be taking on a machine that did exceptionally well here last year, the Magnum Force Jeep of Mike and Richard Jones from Titusville, Florida. The 22-year-old has been involved in some kind of racing, Shelley, for 10 years behind the wheel of this machine.
Well, both of them sound like they're movie fans, too. True Grit versus Magnum Force is like John Wayne versus Clint Eastwood here.
It could be a heck of a battle, no question about it. If I had to put favoritism on any machine, it would be the machine that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, the Magnum Force number 2 of Mike and Richard Jones. A car that can easily put down a low 2-second blast. Dickie Wilson still leading the standings in that lane at 2.28 seconds, even though no less than 5 drivers have come within 0.15 of a second of that time.
Well, I know if Magnum Force wins, it will make his day.
A classic shot of the rear view of these machines, 5 foot 6 inches wide at the back. The DOT cut tread tires, and the whole shot goes to the Jones brothers. No contest. Even though the incredible True Grit stock wheelbase machine of Bill Boydston gave him a run for it all the way down, Boydston started getting sideways near the finish line, and the Magnum Force boys will get the win in this round. You know, both these drivers had to do some serious driving. Here you see Jones. He is definitely working on that steering wheel as he comes across the finish line on a slippery pass. 2.74 seconds, looking over to see if he even got to the finish line first on that one. But tire spin is becoming a problem as we get into the later runs. Watch the stock wheelbase Jeep, though. True Grit. This was some driving to keep this thing straight in the lane and still under power. He goes through it a losing 2.96 seconds, but that stock wheelbase gave him a ride. This is the Walkin' Tall Jeep of Buddy Abbott from Winter Haven, Florida. The right-hand side of your screen, the driver who won the New Orleans Superdome Championship last year, Rod Perry and John Willis's Whiplash 468 cubic inch Chevrolet powered machine. Shelley, he'll be taking on the blue entry at the top of the screen of Buddy Abbott from Winter Haven, Florida, called Walkin' Tall, using 514 cubic inches of Ford. There's the Ford machine. They leave the starting line, and an unbelievable upset as Perry bogged the motor about 30 feet off the starting line, and the blue Ford-powered machine of Buddy Abbott came back for the win. Rod Perry of the Whiplash Jeep, an upset loss in this first round of competition, and Buddy Abbott taking his Ford-powered Jeep funny car to a well-deserved victory. But I'll tell you, despite the stunned look on Abbott's face, Shelley, it is not often you see Rod Perry lose. The man who won the New Orleans championship 1.5 years ago leaves the starting line and bogs badly. You can see him get back at the throttle, the tire speed evident by the incredible distortion, but the elapsed time, 2.70 seconds, is a lot slower than Rod Perry will normally put down. In the other lane, Bud Abbott, the walk-and-tall machine, got sideways down near the finish line. He stays in the throttle of the machine perfectly at an angle, then straightens out when he gets out of the throttle at 2:57. So the final round will pit the Black Magic Corvette of Al Stebbins, the killer for the last 5 years in this part of the country, against Dickie Wilson's A-Team Jeep Funny Car in the championship super modified dash for all the marbles. And we'll be back with more action at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports in just a moment. Final round of the monster truck competition here at the USHRA Association Super Bowl of Motorsports. And this pairing in the semifinals will pit Ford versus Ford, but Mustang versus F-350. It'll be Tommy Bryant's incredible Pony Express Mustang that got a first-round single run when his opponent could not show. He still ran the second quickest elapsed time of the event at 8.49 seconds, indeed tying Kenny Kelling and Bigfoot's qualifying time. However, in the first round over the Virginia Giant, Kelling ran the quickest run of this event at 7.43 seconds in this 150-foot-long monster truck course. And believe me, Shelley, it's going to take a major upset for Tommy Bryant and the Pony Express to do anything to Kenny Kelling.
Oh, but for Ford fans, this must be monster truck heaven.
That's true. So far, of the semifinalists, 3 of them are Ford products. But Tommy Bryant would love nothing more than to beat the Big Blue Ford. Of course, any driver in monster truck racing, that's his goal. But Kelling picking up a full second in the first round of eliminations to a 7.43-second win. Now has to make sure he gets at least a hole shot off the starting line, because if Bryant gets any advantage in that Mustang at all, he may be able to pull off the supreme upset here at the Super Bowl of Motorsports. Waiting patiently for the green flag start. RPM's up. And they leave the starting line, and the hole shot goes to Bryant. The Pony Express Mustang almost on 2 wheels into the mud pit. Sideways. Unbelievable finish. Too close to call at this point. Absolutely unbelievable effort for Tommy Bryant and the Pony Express. Shelley got the whole shot. He was ahead all the way until the machine went sideways into the mud pit. What a ride.
That's the wildest ride we've seen this evening.
It will be the incredible Thumper, the Florida-based machine of Earl Dadgett, taking on the Virginia Giant. Another all-Ford battle, Shelley, and indeed Dale Wilson recorded an 8.8-second losing time in the first round to Bigfoot and got into this round as the quickest loser. Thumper, in the meantime, ran 8.90 seconds to make this battle, so this should be great. Both drivers only separated by 1/10 of a second.
Well, Thumper has an advantage, though. He's got his little mascot puppet with him, so we'll see if that little mascot pulls him through in this Ford battle.
Dale Wilson, well known for his ability to handle the tremendous amount of horsepower produced by that supercharged, fuel-injected Ford power plant. There's Dale waiting patiently for the starter signal. Concentrating intensely, they leave the starting line, and Dale Wilson gets the advantage off the line. The Virginia Giant takes it as Thumper gets sideways, almost over on 2 wheels. Earl Dadgett and Thumper taking the wildest ride of the two, but the Virginia Giant goes to the final round. This is Dick Wilson from Dade City, Florida, who made the final round by virtue of his 2.28-second winning elapsed time in the first round with his fuel-injected, methanol-burning, 500 cubic inch Chevrolet-powered Jeep Funny Car called the A-Team. But Shelley, he is up against this man, a living legend in mud racing, not only in this state, but across the country. You know, 5 years ago in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, this guy won the very first USHRA Association National Mud Racing event held in Florida. This is Al Stebbins of the Black Magic Corvette, a 1982 Chevrolet that has been so strong for 5 straight years. And this is the same machine he ran back at that first national event in this state, Shelley.
Well, when you believe in something, you go all the way with it. It's paid off for him. He's in the finals tonight.
I'll tell you, an equally matched pair of machines. 514 cubic inches of Chevy in the Black Magic, 500 cubic inches in this machine. Dick Wilson's own A-Team Jeep, sponsored, as you can see, by his own tractor service.
Well, at least he gets a sponsor who believes in himself.
That's for sure. Don't have to worry about the sponsor being disappointed there. He only has himself to blame. This young man, though, has been so incredible with this, one of the very first full-body passenger cars ever put in a mud pit. The nitrous oxide injected Orange City, Florida-based Corvette of 33-year-old Al Stebbins. We saw Stebbins run the quickest pass of eliminations in the first round at 2.13 seconds. So far, John Runner's national elapsed time record for this distance at this track, as a matter of fact, of 1.92 seconds remains untouched. I'll tell you, though, it's going to take an under 2-second run probably to win this particular battle.
And these are the cars that can do it.
That's for sure. The two quickest machines in attendance. The Super Bowl of Motorsports 1989. The starter checks to make sure both drivers are ready. Waiting now for the green light for the championship final. Checking one more time to see if Dickie Wilson is ready. Starter checking to see if both drivers are staged. The championship on the line at the 1989 Super Bowl of Motorsports. Dick Wilson's 18 Jeep against Al Stebbins' Black Magic Corvette. The whole shot goes to the Jeep. The Black Magic Corvette too fast through the banner and almost into the retaining wall. Unbelievable battle, but an automatic disqualification for the Corvette going through the banner that marks the end of the shutdown area. One of the closest side-by-side battles we have ever seen in U.S. Harman Association history, and Dick Wilson knows he's won it, if only by the disqualification of his opponent. An absolutely incredible come-from-behind effort from Stebbins and the Black Magic, but Wilson and the A-team holding his own all the way down this 100-foot-long pit. Simply incredible side-by-side action. On the replay, you can see the whole shot by the 18 Jeep. A full car length over the Black Magic Corvette. Stebbins trying to reel him in before the finish line. Charging on the top end at the finish, 2 feet between the two of them. 249 to a 252, but the Jeep wins it by default. Coming up, monster truck action that's going to be just too wild. Stay with us. Well, this is the championship final round for the four-wheel drive monster trucks. And indeed, the winner of this battle, remember, will come back to take on Butch Lowe in the car killer tank Bronco Ford. And it will be a matchup that the crowd will thoroughly enjoy, Shelley.
And this is the second chance that Bigfoot and Virginia Giant are meeting each other this evening. Both of them have taken extremely wild rides with some heavy hits to their vehicles this evening. Let's hope both of them get through this.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, because indeed, like you say, in the first round, these two squared off, and Dale Wilson lost when Kenny Kelling and Bigfoot ran the quickest elapsed time of the event so far at 7.43 seconds. But Dio got back in the Virginia Giant in the semifinals as the quickest loser from the first round. He then beat the Thumper Ford and is now in the final again with Kelling. So here's his chance, like you said, for revenge.
I think it's going to be a clear head and some good driving that's going to win this. You can't just have a grudge match against somebody. You've got to have the skill and the focus to get through this.
That's true, but remember, we pointed out in the first round that Dio Wilson literally lives to beat this machine. The big blue Bigfoot machine. Bob Chandler out of St. Louis, Missouri. It's interesting to note that the quickest elapsed time by Dale Wilson came in the semifinals at 8.10 seconds. But so far in the first and second round of eliminations, Kenny Kelling has never been slower than 7.99 seconds. The only 7-second vehicle in competition. That means Dale Wilson is going to have to leave the starting line first if he expects to get any advantage on Kelling and Bigfoot.
And just to hang on to it, too, not to get sideways and to try to hit those cars as centered as possible.
Wilson, always the picture of intense concentration as he waits for the green light to start off the championship final. They leave the line dead even, no advantage to either driver. They land hard. Kelling gets sideways, hits the last set of cars, and Kenny Kelling sends Bigfoot into the sky for at least a half truck length victory. Dale Wilson goes down in defeat again to the big blue Ford from St. Louis. He's got to be bitter at this point, Shelley.
Well, he gave Bigfoot a good run for his money, and Bigfoot had to come to a bouncing start, several bounces before he could really get it under control.
There's no question Kenny Kelling spent most of the time in the air, but there is the victorious driver as Bob Chandler's team truck once again takes a major victory. But remember, the monster truck racing is not done, because we now will pit Kenny Kelling in Bigfoot against Florida's own Butch Lowe in the car killer tank.
Oh, I love seeing these two pair up.
Well, on the replay, you can see Dale Wilson definitely got a hole shot, almost a full truck length on Kenny Kelling and Bigfoot. But Kelling made up the difference at the worst point. Right here, you see Bigfoot bounce. It's in the air on one tire, and at that point, Kelling manages to still get the power to the ground to get around Dale Wilson in the incredible Virginia Giant. In fact, you can see Kelling stretches it to, at the finish line, a truck and a half between the two, as Kelling goes airborne right towards the crowd. They love every minute of the bouncing Bigfoot action. 8.21 seconds for the Big Blue Ford to a losing 9:17 for Dale Wilson.
at an absolutely sold-out Tampa Stadium in Tampa, Florida. And this is the battle the crowd is here to see. The final Monster Truck Championship dash of the evening for the overall title. Shelley Herman, it will be Bigfoot against a local Ford tank truck. Butch Lowe's Car Killer.
I really like to see these two types of vehicles compete against each other. They're both so fast, they're both so good, and so different. But yet their times can be within fractions of a second of each other.
That's true. You're looking at a 23,000-pound Army M4 tank chassis with a brand-new Ford Bronco body on top, a supercharged Ford power plant in the rear, and here is the four-wheel king, Bigfoot. The problems for the tank, and Bigfoot and Kenny Kelly take it going away. Whoa, Bigfoot just about going over on two wheels. Absolutely incredibly hard landing for Kenny Kelly in the victory, but still an amazing job by the team driver from St. Louis as he defeats the car killer tank of Butch Lowe, and for the second year in a row wins the Super Bowl of Motorsports in an incredible drive to the finish line.
Boy, Bigfoot blew him away right from the start. But I'll tell you, it's been some crazy driving for Bigfoot tonight. I haven't seen him so reckless ever.
Well, I'll tell you, like you pointed out, a lot of these guys took wild rides, but there's the young man who took enough wild rides to win it all. Kenny Kelly saluting the crowd as they salute their favorite monster machine, the machine that started it all. And Bigfoot, as I said, for the second year in a row, takes the overall championship here at the Super Bowl of Motorsports in Tampa. Well, the grand finale here at the 1989 Super Bowl of Motorsports will include something we have never seen at a USHRA Association event before. Drag racing fans will certainly recognize this vehicle, which since 1964 has been one of the best known on the nation's drag strips. This is the jet-powered dragster of Los Angeles, California veteran Doug Rose. The Green Mamba, a machine utilizing a Westinghouse J-34 jet engine out of a Navy Banshee fighter plane. It produces over 6,000 pounds of thrust, the equivalent of 3,500 horsepower. And in just a moment, we'll get a chance, Shelley, to see just what 6,000 pounds of thrust can do to a hapless import truck.
I don't think he's going to race him, is he?
No, as a matter of fact, it'll be a pretty one-sided battle. But what we're looking at right now is the ground crew of the USHRA Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck Tour hooking this little truck up to the back of Doug Rose's incredible Green Mamba jet car. There's a reason that this event has become one of the most popular and most incredible events of the USHRA Association Tour. And Shelley, once again, the Super Bowl of Motorsports has no comparison anywhere.
It really doesn't. And if I knew there was going to be all this excitement here with all the fire and everything, I would have brought some marshmallows to roast.
Absolutely incredible performance by Doug Rose. But the Mud Racing Championships once again proved that the racers that show up here at Tampa Stadium have eventually put down the quickest and fastest runs of the year. 2.13 seconds for the Black Magic Corvette and another win.
It sure was exciting, too.
And, of course, you can't fault Kenny Kelly and Bigfoot. Once again, another championship for Bob Chandler.
I don't know who's going to catch this guy. There's got to be somebody out there who's going to do it, and hopefully we'll get it for you.
Well, tonight you saw some of the best the USHRA Association mud racing, monster truck, and exhibition vehicles have to offer. But believe me, this isn't the end of the 1989 championship season. We've got more action to bring to you from the USHRA Association National Event Tour. For myself, Bret, Kepner, and Shelley Herman, thanks for being with us, and hope to see you at the next USHRA Association National Championship Motorsports event.